Hey, this is Doctr Night Class. Go ahead and click like and subscribe below. Hope you enjoy the medical content. So we have the adrenal gland. I'm drawing it here as a pyramid, okay? I'm drawing it here like a pyramid. There's a new game show that came out, and the game show is called Is It Cake? Is It Cake? I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but basically these master bakers, they make cake in these items like a bowling ball, and the judges have to guess if it's a real bowling ball or if it's a cake. Okay, but when I think of the adrenal glands, I think of a cake. A cake has layers. It has layers. When you cut the adrenal gland, okay, I've cut the adrenal gland here. I've cut it maybe in a coronal slice. Okay, and we're looking at the inside of the adrenal gland. You have different layers to it and different depths to the adrenal gland. Okay, all right, so let's talk about the different layers and the depths of the adrenal glands. There's basically four. Okay, there's four. All right, so at the top, you have the zona glomeralis. Okay, the zona glomeralis, right? We're calling it a zone here. I like how we call it a zone here because when I talk about blood supply, it's going to make a lot of sense, but the zona glomeralis. So is there a hormone released in this area? Yeah, we actually know the hormone. This is where aldosterone is released, okay? Aldosterone is its mechanism of action. It reabsorbs sodium, right? So you can say it's salty. It's salty, right? And you have this cake here. You have this cake, and you have this personal chef here. We call him Salt Bae. That's his name, Salt Bae. Salt Bae, he puts salt, he sprinkles it on everything. And when he sprinkles the salt on his delicious delicacy, the salt lands on the top layer, right? So what I'm trying to say is that the top layer of the adrenal gland is salty. Because if you were to add salt, it would hit the top layer. Okay, so the zona glomeralis is the salty layer where aldosterone is produced. Okay. The next layer, it's a little sweeter. The next layer is the zona vesiculata. It's a little sweeter, okay? Vesiculata is like a face, faciculata, right? And I hope you remember that you always want to make a sweet face when you're walking around the hospital because you don't know who's looking at you or not. You're wearing a nice, giant, glorious, shiny white coat. Most of the time, people are going to be looking at you. So always make a sweet face, like this nice young lady who's holding these lollipops because they're sweet. How sweet are they? They're glucocorticoid sweet. A glucocorticoid. A glucocorticoid could be something like cortisol. Cortisol is a glucocorticoid. Okay, so you remember that this child here is very sweet, making a sweet face, faciculata, okay, and holding these lollipops makes it a gluco for sugar, corticoids. Okay, the middle layer is sweet, the top layer was salty. So what about the layer under that? Well, we have the zona reticularis. When I see reticularis, I see redticularis. And you notice here with the three layers, which one is the most reddish looking? The third layer, right? These layers a little whitish. And then you get to this layer, it looks a little reddish. Okay, zona reticularis. reticularis. Okay, so everyone thinks that their best looking outfit is their red outfit. Ladies, it's your red dress that shows your shoulders, right? Fellas, it's your red blazer that you put on in the mirror, and in your mirror in the bathroom, you look just like Usher in Usher's red light video. You do, and that's why there's a red light here and smoke in the background, because you look your finest. You look like Atlanta's finest, Usher, in his red blazer, right? And you're about to go out. And when you go out wearing your red blazer, you mean business. You mean business, right? So you're going to think the reticularis, this is going to be sex hormones, okay? Sex hormones. Is it the strong sex hormones or the weaker sex hormones? It's the weaker sex hormones, right? Because you don't go out to have sex. No, you go out to introduce yourself, but you're thinking sex, right? So it's kind of like an introductory course. I'm joking. It's kind of like you go out to meet some people and you're going to use your sex hormones, fine, right? But don't go all the way because we're not easy. We have class. Don't do that. Okay, so the red light special, Usher going out in his red blazer, it's the DHEA sex hormones. These are hormones that are a little weaker, okay? But they're still sex hormones. The last and deepest layer is the medulla layer, okay? In the medulla layer, this is where things are magical. Things are magical in the medulla layer because you have those magical neural crest cells. The neural crest cells, there's a specific breed of them. They're called the chromaffin cells, but they make epinephrine and norepinephrine, okay? They make epinephrine and norepinephrine, right? You want to be excited when you go out, right? You want to dance and move. You want sympathetic, right? So norepinephrine and epinephrine are going to do that for you. They're in the medulla of the adrenal gland, the deepest portion. The sympathetic nerve innervation. No, you don't have to point out this is a nerve bundle. Okay, I just want you to know that sympathetic nerve innervation is going to go to the medulla, the deepest layer of the adrenal gland, to stimulate sympathetic. Okay, so let's look again at our cake. All right, cake, cake, cake. It's not even my birthday. Cake, cake, right? So we have these layers of the cake, right? And I'm showing you something very special. You have the arterial blood supply, and it looks like its first stop is the zona glomeralis, right? That's the first stop. More distal, it's the fascicularis for F. More distal, we're talking about arterial blood supply, right? All the nutrients with oxygen. More distal, it's the reticularis. And most far away is the medulla. The most far away from the blood supply is the medulla. So you could almost look at this as zones, right? Zones. Who gets the blood supply first? It's the glomulars, the glomerulosa layer, okay? So like a lot of Latin endings. The fasciculata, okay? And then the reticularis. Lastly, the medulla is going to get its blood supply, okay? Now, what if there is a shortage of blood? What if there's a sudden severe hypotension? A patient has a gunshot wound to the abdomen. The adrenal glands, it's going to panic. You know why? Because the adrenal gland does not get its own direct blood supply. It borrows from everyone else. You know you're really in trouble if you got to borrow sugar from your neighbor and your neighbor doesn't have sugar and no one else around you has sugar, right? Now you're in real big trouble. Okay, so the adrenal gland is doomed. It's doomed. It gets its blood supply for everyone else, but the body is in shock. There's not enough blood to go around. Which zone is going to suffer first? Who thinks they know which zone is going to suffer first? Out of our 4 layers of our adrenal cake. For more night class content, go ahead and email me at doctrnightclass@gmail.com. That's DOCTR nightclass, gmail.com. Hope you enjoy the content.